Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Monday night edition of Lads It's Tottenham. Sorry, everybody, but you got me again hosting, and I'm not in a very good mood. So we're not gonna dissect the game, yesterday's game. I just can't be dealing with it. I've been listening to other pods and other shows. So I think tonight we're more going to discuss what is wrong with Spurs. How can we fix it? And the people who I think you can give us those answers are with me tonight. So first, my old companion all the way from Vienna, HG. How are you, mate?
I'm doing really well. It's still really hot here. The heat is just debilitating. But back to work. Enjoyed seeing both of my schools today. And I'm happy to talk Spurs. We should mention the game a little bit, but you're right.
Yeah.
Like the focus needs to be on what can we do? How do we improve? How can those results get better?
Well, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about the game because as we're talking about that, we'll use examples from yesterday. But also with us, not been here for a while on a Monday night, James. How are you, James? Frozen by the look of it.
Back.
Do we have life?
We do. The internet's being a bit dreadful this evening. That's unfortunate. Anyway, thanks for having me on. Been a while. I was here on Friday, actually, so you get to double see me, everybody. Isn't that exciting for you lot? But yeah, back to dissect the issue of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Yeah, so I mean, today I've listened to various pods, some YouTube shows, try and get a bit of therapy. I think I found myself getting even more wound up, which is ridiculous, really. But I think there's just sort of there's no middle ground. I want us to be able to say sort of what we see, not like catchphrase, the TV show. I want us to say what we see. And a bit of sort of just level-headed conversation. I don't want to be all negative and doom and gloom, but I don't want be positive for positive's sake. Let's talk about, what's wrong. I mean, it's some of the things I've heard today. I don't even think the people who are talking about it believe what they're saying. They're just saying it because they're thinking that's how they should
hang on a second.
about it.
Hang on a second. So, Gibbo, tell me, what have you heard? Where have you heard it? And what have they said?
No, I've just heard various things. When we're talking,
Who? Wait, what have they said? Because it obviously
you know what I'm like. I'm frantic. I listen to stuff and then I just start chuntering and what the fucking hell am I listening to? What do you mean? If Solanke had been on the pitch, we'd have definitely got a draw. How fucking ridiculous is that? He might not have it, Do you know what I'm saying? It's just stuff where I'm thinking it's all just pure whataboutery and just hope. And you know what hope does, HG, don't you? It kills you. It kills you. There's no good relying on hope. We've been doing this for long enough. Anyway, I've had my little rant. I want you two guys to basically, James, you go first. Yesterday's game.
Yeah.
What went wrong? We played well. We did play well, but unfortunately, it's the result at the end of the day that matters. What is wrong?
We just don't seem to have learned our lesson. We've played well in a lot of games under Ange. We played well against Leicester, but then we get quite easily flustered by something. And we always just seemingly have this obsession with not shooting, not attacking the ball enough. We've seen so many of our attacking players that they won't attack the ball when it's going across goal or in so many situations like that. And I think it's just it's that repeating. You've got Son, who doesn't want to be a striker, forced to play there because Solanke is immediate out and Richarlison has legs made of glass or something. It just seems like we only have one way of playing and there's absolutely no plan B. And the mentality, as soon as it's rattled a little bit, we can't get it back on that day. Sometimes you're rattled for 5-10 minutes, but most teams can pull themselves out of it. We seem to massively struggle to do that. And in particular, I think we're very much a form team. We can look brilliant or we can look good, but we just don't know how to kill games. We're not experienced enough in that department. We're not good enough at winning, as daft as it sounds.
Yeah, I mean, HG, your take on it, shit or bust, don't we? Spurs.
Look, we weren't that bad. Like, I
No,
understand.
we did. No,
No,
we
no,
played well.
hang on. Look, like, if you're going to have a go at people for being positive, look, I don't
Yeah.
agree with the whole "we'd have won if," right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, if my auntie had, we know the rest of that sentence.
Yeah.
But like we did play well. Like it's annoying that the chances we give up tend to be good ones, right? It's annoying that Harvey Barnes, who I don't really rate, managed to find the corner with that first time shot. But the frustrating thing is that we know that one of the big three teams, let's face it, if they had played the game that we had played, they'd have won that game by a couple of goals. They'd have got the goals that the domination deserved. And they may not have been great goals. They may not have been screamers. They could have been a bit scruffy, but they would have found a way to put the ball in the net. And Spurs find a way of getting the ball into the area, which is all well and good, but the shooting from distance isn't great. And if we're not shooting from distance, we're not really doing anything. We're just kind of playing pretty football and dominating and winning the ball back high at the pitch and all the things that you want to see. But if it doesn't result in efforts on target, if we're not working the goalkeeper and actually making it difficult for him rather than just a relatively comfortable save, then yeah, it's going to be we're going to have games like this the whole way for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've started the show on a bit of a rant, but we did play well yesterday, mate, didn't we? I mean, I think that's what makes it far more frustrating, that at times we looked really good. And I mean, and the caveat to all what we're talking about tonight, because I'm sure we'll throw loads of different questions out there, and I don't think anybody in here is none of us are Anjou. We all sort of know where we're going. You know, we all want whatever the Angie's style and whatever he's doing, we all want that to work. And that, because like that's the type of football I want to see Spurs play. What we're trying to do is what I want to see us do, and I want us to be successful doing it. So, like, I don't think any of us here are Anjou. I've started off on a bit of a, and if people want to be positive, absolutely brilliant. I just sometimes don't think you find the answers, or you know, if Ange went in that changing rooms and he was uber positive about every, don't worry, this is, because I don't think he will be. I think sometimes you have to pick the bones out of it, don't you?
I mean, this is it. People will question Ange now. I mean, they will,
Yeah.
and they are, right? And Spurs fans are doing it. I mean, the really idiotic ones are thinking, you know, who are we going to get next? Which is just crazy talk. Like, the only way I think Ange even has a chance of not finishing the season at Spurs is if we're down towards the relegation zone. And I don't expect that. Doesn't mean it can't happen, because we've seen, you know, in the 3 games we've seen so far, like teams like Leicester, they could have beaten us. They maybe should have beaten us. They had better chances when it was 1-1. So we can't be complacent to think we will definitely make the top 6 because we're playing so well. Like, the performances are good and we've got lots of possession, and that's all well and good, but it has to end in goals. And, you know, like, considering we've scored, 6 in 3 games? I mean, 2, you think about an average, 2 is okay, but when you think about the teams we've played, 2 of those games we probably should have won. And then the Newcastle game, they weren't at their best. They weren't at their strongest, and we didn't take advantage. So, like, it's really tough to expect, like, the performances will continue to be good. I believe that. I really do. But that's not good enough, right? The fact that the performances are increasing isn't enough. And we have to find a way to take that domination of certain stats and turn it into goals.
Yeah, I mean, James, when you look at it, problem conceding goals, we concede very easily, don't we? And at the moment, scoring goal. Well, I don't know. Obviously, we'll come to you first, and I'll come to H. I don't even think it's converting chances. I think it's the action before a chance is created that we keep fucking up. I mean, for you, what is the more worrying? The defensive lapses, the conceding, or struggling to score? Or do you think eventually they'll both work themselves out?
I think the defence is troubling, how many goals we concede and how many good quality chances we concede. But I think that kind of is a choice in a lot of way of how we play. Like, you kind of know we're going to be semi-defensively fragile, playing so attacking. And you go, well, it doesn't matter if we let 1 or 2 in, we'll score 5. Issue is we don't create enough clear-cut chances. And also, I mean, we've had a massive downgrade in our striking options, from Kane to what we have now. So we were always going to feel this to some extent, I think. I think the biggest issue is we just never seem to truly control and run games. Like, we can be much better than the other team for 30 minutes and play good football, but we never really seem to totally control the game unless the other team capitulates like Everton did, right? But not once against Newcastle or Leicester. Okay, we were the better team for large periods of the game, but it never felt like we had completely got control of the game, which, you look at the cities of the world, they do. So that's kind of where I think it all stems from, just this lack of control of games. And I'm not really sure what area on the pitch you have to change or what you have to do tactically to kind of get us there.
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about... I mean, this is the thing. Like, we all know that Ange isn't going to change, right? And I don't necessarily have a problem with the system that has 2 centre-backs and 3 in midfield with the inverted full-backs. I think that's fine. Yeah, it's a bit more adventurous than what we see Arsenal do, than what we see City do, even what we saw with Liverpool last season. But Liverpool tend to, like, if they might have 2 centre-backs and a defensive midfielder be the 3 that are basically tasked with defending the entire time, and they do push their full-backs on. So if we get a defensive midfielder that can do the things that maybe Fabinho did, then having Van der Ven and Romero at the back, it could easily be enough. Like, Bissouma is not the greatest defensive midfielder, certainly at defending, but he's capable of controlling the game and keeping the tempo the way we want it to be, which is why he plays most of the games under Ange. I just feel that, I don't want to blame the system, but we have to tweak things a little bit. Like I've said, and I said on my Facebook page, but I'm sure I've said it on here as well, the idea that we want our fullbacks to be as attacking as they are. Like, I love seeing Porro and Udogie go forward, but I don't want them to be further forward than the 8s. I don't want Madison dropping back. I don't want Papsar kind of being defensively solid, because it makes more sense to have actual kind of attacking midfielders in those positions, especially when, let's face it, our wingers still aren't that great. So there are tweaks to be made, and I think we saw it on Saturday. I think we got better in the second half when Kulusevski played as the 8. I think Brennan Johnson came on and did pretty well. Like, I will say that publicly. I feel like we were always more likely to get what would have been the winning goal, but we all know that Spurs will give those goals away, and like, Newcastle didn't have to do much. It was just a simple ball into space, and Murphy had the pace to go on and basically make the decisive act of the game. Isak scored, but it was all Murphy's work, really. And so you just, like, what can we do to limit the chances that we give? Because the best teams don't give away chances like that. They just don't. And how can we improve the chances that we do create? Because we're getting lots of half chances, lots of poor quality chances. But what can we do to basically to turn things around in both areas? Because right now, with what we've got, it feels like a way to mid-table.
Yeah, I mean, James, that's like, obviously HG's hit the nail on the head. So we'll come to you then. Defensively, how do you think defensively I think it's probably defending as a team more, but how do we stop giving these chances that HG spoke about?
I mean, especially yesterday, I think a lot of it is Dragusin and Romero haven't played together much. So there wasn't that intrinsic kind of sixth sense of where the other is, whereas perhaps I think they have that a lot more when it's Van der Ven and Romero. But, that's not a long-term issue. They'll play together more and they'll develop, that sort of thing. It's funny, isn't it? Because I think all our defenders are good. I don't think Porro is particularly good defensively, actually. I think he's very good going forward, but I don't think he's great defensively. Udogie's better defensively. But I just very much think when you play such a high line and you press so high and you only really have one defensive midfielder there who isn't, world class, you are putting a lot on 2 centre-backs. And I think as well, because every team in the league knows exactly how we play, I think it's quite a lot easier for them to identify the weak point and go for it with us. I think that's where a lot of the perhaps defensive frailties come. And then when you put players under more pressure more often in situations where they basically have to be exceptional to make the system work, they're more likely to make errors because they're under that constant pressure. They're not protected by the system as much as perhaps players in, for Pep or under Slot might be. So it exposes small weaknesses in a player's game far more. And I think that's what our defence kind of exemplifies, especially when you've got both fullbacks bombing forward. And, City only invert one fullback. They're much more defensively solid than us. But we just seem to want to throw everybody forward. And I think that's fine in some games, but obviously you are putting this constant pressure on two players to constantly be world class.
I mean, this is good point. Sorry, it's a good point that's been made up here. Southampton fan, I guess, by the badge. But we battered Leicester and Newcastle, and that's nice, but we got a point. It sounds crazy. I saw a take on Twitter that, performances are more important at the start of the season. And I understand the logic that, when it's 5 games to go and you need a win to make sure you get what you need, then the result is more important. But the result is the whole point of the game. I don't want to sit here and say Spurs played well, but we lost. I mean, that's been 40 years of my life. I don't want to do that. I want to see Spurs play well when we won. And if we're not winning, why? Right? Playing badly and winning, we did that with Conte and Jose, and that wasn't great either. We all sat there thinking, okay, we might nick a winner, but we don't deserve it. I don't think it's outrageous for any football fan to want their team to play well and win. I think that's quite standard. However, if we're not winning, then that's the problem. I don't want to sit here and be like, Spurs have got the most touches inside the box in the first 3 games. Means nothing. I want the most goals in 3 games. I want a better defensive record. I want clean sheets. I want to see that regularly. And that's how you win stuff. I don't see, we sit here after the last 2 seasons, Man United have won 2 cups, and they've won that by being able to score goals. So I recognize I'm kind of contradicting myself here, but I don't want to be a cup team. I want us to be a league team. I want us to be one that can win cups because they're good, not just because they were good on the day. And it's annoying to think that we might the performances are getting better, and it feels like something could be happening, but when? How long are we going to have to wait for these games that we dominate to become more often 3 points?
Yeah, mate. I mean, I'd probably look at it. It might be a slightly old-fashioned take, but we've obviously started this season, and like you said, we have played well. We've beaten a really poor Everton team, but you still got to go out there and beat them. Away to Leicester, who I think are another poor team. And I look at it and I think, first of all, our away record is pretty poor. I remember years ago when I used to be until the Poch era, I used to be Tottenham going away from home, pretty much a waste of time. You get a draw at best, a couple of wins a season, and the rest you get beaten. And I'm sort of getting that feeling about our away performance. But also, and I know it's two different seasons, but I always used to think teams that finished a season strong tended to start a season strong. But what's happening with Spurs is we finished a season. I know we beat Sheffield United, but we finished the season, losing games. And we've gone into this season, we've beaten a poor team, but we've sort of not won against Leicester, where we should win. And then we've been and lost this game where we should have won it. And for me, little red flags come up, and I'm thinking to myself, winning's a habit, but so can losing be a habit. And these types of games, and what worries me is HG is that, or James, whoever wants to jump in, that we will beat the dross of the league. I think we will. But what you said, mid-table team, HG, I hope it doesn't come to that. But I look at it at the minute and I think away from home, good teams, just good teams, will get joy against us and probably beat us. And then, we're all saying about do we believe in like the project and what Angie's trying to do, and we've got to hold on to it? Do the players, believe? Obviously, it is early in the season, and we're all sort of like, this is what we do. We talk about. If we didn't talk like this all the time, there'd be none of these shows, and it would all be very dull and boring. But am I wrong to sort of think like that, mate? James, go. You go first.
No, I think that we do definitely look poorer away, which I think mentality. It has to be some kind of mentality thing, and I've been bloody saying this for years. Like, no matter the manager, there seems to be something of a mentality issue at the club. The only one who really kind of started to change it a little bit was Pochettino, and that took a while and a very young team. So maybe that's the exact same kind of thinking and approach from the higher level. Is okay. He wants to play. This guy wants to play. Andrew wants to play attacking football. It will take him a few years, and we'll sign young players. We'll give him exciting players who are really eager to learn and want to play football. But at the same time, it's a bit disheartening in a lot of ways. You mentioned away results. We have some tricky away games in Europe. That is going to really, really test the character of the team and how much the players are, mentally strong. They must believe in the project. I don't believe Ange would have players around the team who weren't, in his eyes, committed to it completely. It's just, maybe, when you look at the business we've done, the business wasn't done with the intention of challenging this season. It was done with the aim of hopefully being top 4 and then not being dreadful in the other 3 competitions. And then I guess the idea was we'll spend and maybe challenge the season after. But it's not exciting. It's not what you want to see as a fan, is it? In a few years, lads, we'll be there. Because you just don't know what's going to happen.
I will say this: I do feel in the first 3 games that we have performed pretty well, and there are definite signs that the corner could be turned at some point. Right? I do believe that. I feel that the players are better. That we've learned. I think that perhaps playing with 2 10s as the 8s with its Madison and Kulusevski will help us, and that maybe someone like Bergvall is more likely to come on, and we'll see more of him than we'll see of Archie Gray. I think that's okay. I like the idea that if we're going to play a front 5, then brilliant. If that's our best way of winning games, maybe the better teams will tear us apart, but we can get where we want to be by making sure that we dispatch the teams that we should dispatch, and that's the frustrating thing, is that it's not there. The next game obviously is a tough one, a really tough one. And I know that there are bullish Spurs fans out there who think anything can happen in a game like this. And I understand that that's true, but if I'm a betting man, I'm not betting on Spurs right now. That's just the fact of the matter. And the games after that are not easy ones. They're games that we tend to struggle in. And so the corner needs to be turned quickly for Spurs fans to start to believe again a little bit. Had we got the 3 wins that maybe our performances have deserved, we're sitting here thinking, maybe hold our horses a little bit. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We don't know. We've not played anyone good. All of those things would come out. And I do think we've got better, but you still have to hope that the chance creation, which is where we're struggling, is going to improve. And I don't know how it will. I don't see better players than the ones we've got going. So is it going to be down to the defense of the opposition team? Because Leicester couldn't really stop us creating in that first half, but we couldn't take them. Against Everton, thankfully, we took a couple in the first half and it made it a bit easier. But if we don't score the first 2 goals in a game, everyone starts to think that, hang on, there's going to be a time here where the other team figure us out and we can get caught. And we have to be better than that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that I know it's different. I do see just a lot of similarities. I think if you probably look back at some of our shows, HG, where we spoke last season, a lot of the things I'm seeing now, I saw back then. But I probably think that towards the end of last year, the one difference is we lost yesterday, but we played well. Some of the games we lost, I think, actually, did you say that yesterday, HG, that the games last season that we did lose, that were frustrating. We didn't actually play well.
No, I mean, obviously there are reasons maybe why we didn't play well towards the end of the year. Certain players are out, but not many. I mean, it's not like it was that time in November when we had, basically all of our best players out and were losing games. It felt towards the end of last season that, Udogie was out and we were struggling. And we didn't figure out that we had to put Van der Ven at left back until the last 2 games of the season or whatever it was. It felt like we were winning games a bit fortunate in the second half of last season. And right now it seems as if we're being a bit unfortunate when it comes to games. So there is a massive role reversal. We're probably somewhere in the middle. However, if we don't figure things out, then maybe teams will just continue to take advantage of the issues that we have, and no one wants to see it. So it's weird. I'm really kind of positive about what we're doing and how we're controlling games, and how Newcastle had their basically first choice midfield out, I would say, yesterday. And we did, I think, dominate in that area. It's just that we didn't turn that into goals. And Newcastle, Joe Linton gets a right-footed assist. How is that possible? Or a pre-assist or whatever it would have been. But it was his pass that did it. We've just got to make sure that we don't go crazy when we're trying to get these goals, and we just continue to put our feet on the throat and hope, but that things will go our way, because they can easily. We just need to do something a little bit different.
Yeah, I've told you not to hope, HG. You know better than that. But James, go on.
No, I believe that the players, if the right ones are picked, I do believe that the talent is there, right?
Yeah.
We might have been better with a proper 9, because we didn't really play with one at any point, because we didn't have one to play with. So I can understand that we'd offer something different. Like if Solanke's up top or Richarlison's up top, then maybe crossing the ball becomes more effective. We have to do everything on the ground with Kulusevski and with Son. They're just not going to score those goals. So yes, there are things that can be different. Having said that, if what you can do needs to be changed, we have to change it. We can't just rely on individual quality.
Yeah, James, I mean, so we sort of spoke about the defence, then we've moved on. Now the other side of the coin was, we were saying the chance conversion and making those good decisions around the opposition box. And sort of I think when we were talking about defending and you were saying about players not playing with each other, I thought Dragusin was really good yesterday. And but I do think, I believe that if we use the ball better up in that end of the pitch, that will take away from where we are, sort of our deficiencies at the back. I actually believe that. I mean, at the moment, Spurs have to play the perfect game. I feel like it has to absolutely be put. The plan has to go perfectly, and if it does, like it did away at Villa last year, we can beat any team. We beat a good Villa team, and we beat them 4-0. And we were never, I mean, I know they had a guy sent off, but we were never really under pressure in that game. We were fantastic. Everything went to plan apart from Van der Ven coming off, but we were still good. But James, how do we, or in your opinion, that front part where it's just breaking down or the chances aren't being converted, is that a quality issue? Is it a personnel issue? Is it a tactical issue? What do you think that is?
Oh, I mean, I think firstly, what we have an issue with is you have 2 kind of football players, right? You have the guys who aren't going to give the ball away, and you're going to have the guys who give the ball away a lot. Giving the ball away isn't intrinsically bad, because it means they're trying to make things happen, get goals, assists, all those good things. But I think we have a lot of players who give the ball away because they're trying to do things. That's good. We don't necessarily have enough ball retention in the correct areas of the pitch. I think the other issue is, when you look at our front line, how many wingers do we have? We have players who play out wide, but they're not particularly natural wide players. And obviously what Ange wants to do is have his wingers stay very, very wide. I don't think that's Son's game. I don't really think that's not Kulusevski's game. That's not really even Werner's game. Does Werner have a game? The only natural wingers we have are probably Johnson and Odegaard. But one's just come in, and he's very young. and Brennan Johnson, he obviously is struggling for confidence and some would argue quality. So you think, okay, so we're having all these defensive issues by making and attacking issues while keep forcing players to play in a position which, in a role that almost doesn't really fully suit them, right? And then you kind of force the naturally good wide players in our team, I think our fullbacks, to play down the middle. And I do think, I completely get the system and what it's trying to do. My thought is just, some wants to cut inside, some wants to play narrow, as does Kulusevski, as does most of our attacking players. Why not, instead of inverting the fullbacks, push the wing-backs high and let the wingers cut inside? And then defensively, you perhaps don't need to have quite as much gung-ho-ness in the midfield. You can have your DM sit back with the centre-backs. That's what it feels like is the issue to me. Obviously, you do have a lot of build-up play advantages to you inverting your fullbacks, and obviously it puts a lot on your six, but I think that's a big part of why our front line can be a tad dysfunctional at times, because they're not entirely comfortable with the role they're playing.
Yeah, I think we were very narrow in the second half. I mean, we got the equaliser, a bit fortunate. I mean, let's be fair, it was quite fortunate that he tried to hack the ball away when it was going wide. Yet, it felt like everything was kind of inside the 18-yard box. We didn't use the wings. Johnson would win the ball, and then of course he was able to cut inside. But if we weren't giving the ball to him, or there was no one really down the left, whoever it was, Odebear before he got subbed. I mean, Werner came on for him, right? So we just weren't really using the width as well as we can. But let's face it, even if we were, who's got the ability to cross the ball from there? To me, probably only Porro. We don't have anyone down there. I don't expect a great cross from Udogie. We've never really seen him try, to be fair. But I feel like we're not creating the space. We've got all these players trying to get through a congested area, and we're not good enough to get half chances away. I feel like the best one we made in that second half was when the ball kind of fell over Johnson's feet, over his head, and he took it down really well. And then the left-footed shot, as difficult as it was in that much time, in a short time frame, just to balloon it over the top. We have to be able to take those half chances, and we've shown no ability to do so, really. And that's not just the 3 games this season. I feel that's been a running theme. If we get a good chance, we will score, but we just don't create enough of those.
No, I mean, so are we saying then? I mean, this is what I'm trying, and I don't want to. Is it a personnel issue then, HG? I'll come to you. Obviously, you're fair enough to neither me and you aren't Johnson fans, but I thought he came on yesterday and he had an impact. I'm not,
Yeah.
Obviously, he had an impact. There was still the same old Johnson in certain areas, but he had an impact. When he beat Gordon that time, that is what I want to see him do. That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant.
And it was smart because he clearly egged him into the challenge. He wasn't going full pelt. He waited for the challenge and then used to get away. That's the type of thing I have seen other players do. Some very good players for Spurs. So it was an encouraging 45 minutes from him. But, and there is a but, what happens next? The quality isn't there with what happens next. But that's not just his fault. I feel like a lot of players either make bad decisions, or there were times when Kulusevski got himself into a great position, then just didn't shoot, was looking for a pass that maybe wasn't there, or a 1-2 that didn't really lead to anything better. That needs to, can that be worked on? I guess. Even if you just decided to say, you know what, every 3 times I'm in this position, I'm going to have a thwack, we might come out better at the end of it. I feel like he wants to be the assist maker rather than the scorer. And when Madison's kind of like that too, was quite happy to be the one who that's his thing. He's like the main man, the quarterback, whatever. He doesn't score the goals he probably should. He gets a few from free kicks, but we just, as much as the shooting was better, it has been better in these 3 games. I think we are now realizing that if we don't if we don't take these shots, then I mean it's really cliche. I don't want to say it, but
Yeah.
we're not going to score. I know it's too cliche, but there is a massive truth to it. Like Son is not on the end of these half chances. He's not really taking long range shots that he might have done before. We saw the one that against Everton where it was deflected and Pickford made a good save, but that's about it really. And he's the best finisher at the club. If I expect anyone to score from the edge of the box, it's going to be him. That says a lot about the strength of the other players too, but still we just have to trust our ability more. We can't try and score the perfect goal. No one cares about the perfect goal.
Yeah.
I care about a goal. I don't care how it goes in. I couldn't care less. It can go in off Boris's butt for all I care. It just needs to go in, and we don't. I mean, I think Phil said it in a comment. Yeah, like, would we have scored? I kind of agree with him. Like, we're dangerous, but we don't create anything with those moments.
Decision making's bad, isn't it? Decision making's bad. I mean, like, James, we were talking about Son on the other side. I agree with HG that he, to me, is the only guy I really trust to score. And I can't really, that's probably excluding Solanke because he's only just come in. But like when he plays on the left, even his decision making in open play is quite bad, isn't it? I mean, put him in front of goal, mate. Put Son in front of goal with a one-touch finish, or if he just has to move it onto his other foot and bend it into, mate, unbelievable. But even his decision making out wide to assist goals is bad, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose the question you have to ask is, why is the decision-making so poor in attacking areas? Like, they're mostly good football players, and I'm presuming quite intelligent. Son definitely is very footballing, has a very good footballing intelligence. So you think, what's holding them back? Is it a specific instruction they have? Is it because of they're not feeling entirely comfortable in the specific role they're playing, or the way they're being told to play? Is it a confidence thing, or are they just unwilling to take the risk in certain situations? So they're being told to do the slightly less risk, more risk-averse thing. That, to me, can seemingly be the only cause of, this poor decision-making. That, or, some form of personality clash. I don't know. It's really hard to read into. Maybe it will just take more time and then it will click all at once. But yeah. I'm not convinced. Surely you can see, Ange can see this, right? Like that it's not good decision making. But I guess
if that's the case, James, then it's personal, isn't it? I mean, HG, comment you've put up here, even with wingers. So why did you put that up, mate? What do you think into that?
I think Paul's right. I mean, this is it. Like, we get to the byline, then what? Like, it has to go low because of the players that we had available. But then, if that's the case, then I feel like the difference between Leicester and Everton is that we managed to push Everton back into their own box as opposed to just on the edge of their own box, which meant that the goal that Bissouma scored was a much easier chance because he was 18 yards out rather than 25 yards out. That seems to be the only way we can create space in those areas is by pushing everyone back. And Newcastle, to their credit, they had a back four. They had the three in midfield that would sit deep. And so the space wasn't there. So what do? We didn't have an aerial presence unless we stick someone like Dragusin up front for the heck of it. So, it's funny. I remember watching on the German commentary, and the commentator went on for about a couple of minutes about how he was surprised that Richarlison didn't come on because we kept on going down the wings. And I'm sitting there thinking, you do know he's not on the bench. Like, we just didn't have those options. Maybe in 2 weeks, one of them will be back and we will have that option. Maybe both of them will be back. So it felt like, for all the people complaining about no plan B yesterday, well, it's probably understandable why, but we still have to figure out a way to do this. Like, we can't, maybe if we can't win the game, make sure we don't lose it. And I know that Ange is going to be the type of player that wants to go on and win it, but we see every season it gets to the point where you're 2 points out of where you want to be, and there are 2 points throughout that season that you probably wish you should have got. I know every team will feel that way, but you have to play the percentages a bit. Like, okay, it sucks that Newcastle get the goal with 15 minutes to go, and then we're chasing it again, and Newcastle have no desire to really play football at that point. But we still have to find a way to make things happen. Like the good teams find a way. And if we're continuing to do the same thing, we are unlikely to find a way.
We obviously play out wide and wants those wingers to get in. But our attacking midfielder, who I see as our attacking midfielder, is there an issue there, James? Madison, is he creating enough? Is he doing what you want? Like how I see James Madison, or how I saw James Madison when he came to Spurs, is not the James Madison I've seen since probably when he got injured against Chelsea. And I know he was obviously injured and come back. Even then, he sort of played a little bit differently, but I haven't seen the James Madison I thought Spurs were getting for a long time.
He's another confidence player. He blows hot and cold, I think, for sure. And I think maybe the injury knocked a bit of confidence out of him. But he's definitely a player that needs to kind of feel like the biggest dick in the room, right, to play well. Some players are just like that. Some people in general are just like that, right? He's totally one of those players. And I think perhaps he's lost a bit of confidence and he's thinking slower. His thinking is taking an extra half second. And I think it was fine before, maybe. He didn't need that so much because he was technically very good. And he had a lot more confidence. And I guess when he first came, he wanted to prove himself. But there's no one really around him to put any pressure on him, to keep performing, to keep proving that he's our best creative player. The closest you have is Bergvall. So some 18-year-old Swedish fella. He's going to put the pressure on. No, of course not. The only other one who's remotely near, Kulusevski. I mean, maybe in time Bergvall can, but not right now. Kulusevski, not really his thing. Can he play there? I mean, he should play there with Madison every game. That's definitely how we create the most chances. But again, it's a mentality thing. That's what it screams to me, a lot of this. And maybe it's a case of he's a good player, but he's not good enough if we want to actually be winning things. I mean, the thing I keep reminding myself is, like, when Arteta went to Arsenal, it took him 2 years. It took 3, really. And what Ange wants to do is actually probably a more radical way of playing than what they play. So it might take a while. I mean, I think we've spent money relatively smartly the past couple windows. So hopefully it won't take that long. And we were, we didn't finish 8th last season, right? Like, we looked a lot better. But I think these things just might take time. And unfortunately, some players who we think are good players, we might just have to accept long term in a year or two's time aren't good enough if we want to be challenging for top 3, top 2 winning trophies.
HG?
When we talk about Madison,
yeah,
I don't want Madison playing basically left back. I don't want him getting the ball off the centre backs. That seems to be what he did in the first half yesterday. I think he got better in the second half, mainly because we were able to push Newcastle back a bit more. He obviously had that shot that Nick Pope did pretty well to save. That it wasn't right in the corner, but still, that's maybe one of the first shots I remember. Like, he's had the opportunities. We've seen the Romero ball over the top trying to find the run of Madison. That's what I want to see. But I don't want him pretending he's Luka Modric, right?
Yeah.
Like that. He's not that player. I don't want him losing the ball and then suddenly, we're chasing back in transition because he's tried one too many turns and gets caught. So it's not the player that he was at Leicester. It's not the system that he had at Leicester, where he had a bit more freedom to move around. And Leicester obviously weren't trying to push high up on the pitch for a lot of it. But it's tough because if he doesn't play, then Bergvall will, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But it's weird. Am I okay with it for the North London derby? I don't know. Like, will I be okay with it for the home game against Qarabağ? Absolutely. We have to be giving these squad players a chance to actually see what they can do. And I understand why it hasn't happened, but I still think that whatever the balance is for that midfield, we haven't got it right. And if Madison is too deep, we won't get it right. He has to be closer to the 9. He has to be getting the balls off, and not just on one side either. Like, if the winger's got it, then Madison can get over there and become that short ball option and then try and put a cross into the box or do something different. But to him, like, we see that horseshoe football quite a lot where the left wing or the left back gets it and it goes inside to the next person and he goes inside to the next person and then suddenly it's on the other side. We've not really done anything with it, but we've just moved the ball and kept possession and we're waiting for the right opportunity. But sometimes the right opportunity is hit it first time into the box and maybe you'll catch people off guard because that's how teams score against us. So it's there are things we can do. Like I don't think Madison's had a poor start to the season, but I want him closer to the attacking line. I don't want him getting balls off Bissouma.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was just bringing it up because obviously we're just talking about the attacking players, and I thought we were going to see a player with more goals, more assists, and more Eric. I know you said about Modric, but I thought we were going to see not the same level, but I thought we were going to see, a little bit of Eriksen type player, if you get what I mean. But I don't think he's anywhere near that.
Eriksen doesn't have the quick feet that Madison does. Do you know what I mean? Like, Eriksen's way of beating someone was to use a body swerve or have the ball run past him, and he understood space really well. But when it came to a delivery, Eriksen got it quite good quite a lot of the time. And we're not talking about corners. We're talking about in the game itself. He always trusted himself. And I think sometimes with Madison, he's waiting for the perfect opportunity. And maybe the runs aren't being made. Like he got an assist for Porro in the first game, and that was because Porro made the run. Maybe we're not making runs from deep. There are lots of things we can do better. But I think for me, I just want Madison closer to goal because he's got the talent. He's got the quick feet. He can get you, simple free kicks that maybe we can take advantage of. But I don't want him near the centre circle at any point.
So James, to break it down, then games coming up. We have played well. Do we play ourselves out of this now, or is Ange going to have to change something? I don't think he will, but in your opinion, if we continue just to keep playing, will it end up working, or is it going to need tweaks?
I think that very much depends on the kind of team we're going to be playing. I mean, obviously, North London derby next game, and I actually think the way we play is very optimal for playing them because I think they really struggle with it. It's mostly the teams that want to sit back in a mid-block that we really struggle against. And they're not going to do that against us. They're going to want to come out and try to dominate the game. And actually, I think we have a fairly good chance of beating them. But again, I think Ange needs to maybe acknowledge that if a team's playing a mid-block and we're really struggling to do anything about it, make some tweaks. Tell everyone to be a bit more opportunistic. I think that's possibly going to happen. You can still have the overriding same style of play and still want that to eventually click at some point with personnel, while also saying, okay, it's not working in this very instance, we're going to make some changes, because I don't think he makes enough changes during matches. He changes personnel, but he doesn't really change what those personnel are doing enough, and that comes down. The only time that changes is when it's a radically different player coming on, and that's kind of my issue with him, because I think he very much thinks, well, here's how I play. It always works. Eventually, it will start working here once I get the right personnel. Which, okay, fine, but equally, you have to be a little bit pragmatic in games, don't you?
Yeah, fair enough. I kind of agree with you there. HG, do we just keep playing, or do tweaks need to be made?
I think that if we're really looking for results, we don't have to change the style of play that much, right? I'm not asking for a 5-3-2 counter attack. Like, I understand we've got wing backs and pretty good ones, and that maybe it could help us in certain games to do that. But I don't think it would change the style of play. I think we all want to see Spurs play with the ball on the ground. We want to see attacks in numbers. We want to see Spurs going for it. But that doesn't mean we want to see one person at the back. It doesn't mean we want to see a simple ball over the top put us into trouble. Like, there has to be a balance, and the balance isn't there. So it is a tough one. Like, I still think that Arsenal will have the quality to really hurt us, and so how do we make sure that doesn't happen? Well, I don't think we can. I don't think we can't really stop them. But we saw, I mean, if you watch the Arsenal-Brighton game, and I didn't catch it all, but what I saw, and that was probably the last 20 minutes of the first half, Brighton were every much Arsenal's equal at that point, and they had a lot of the possession, and they were able to just play through whatever Arsenal were trying to do. I know Arsenal got the goal and then put them ahead, but still it felt like if I can see Tottenham do that, I will be encouraged. But because then we're able to kind of match them for skill, and then it's what do we do with the half chances we get? And that's where I feel like, sadly, they have the better options. Like we saw when Arsenal went to Villa, Trossard scores very quickly with a first touch finish that we would take a touch before deciding what to do. That seems to be the speed of thought is the issue. But like we can go on a run and win the next 3 games, right? I mean, I believe that. I just don't see it. I think that maybe a run of 3 games will happen in October and November. Then it's more likely to be in September. And it will suck to drop points against Brighton and Man United and the Goons, because I think West Ham are coming up too. Like those teams will be where we want to be, just like Newcastle are. But we've still got to, we've got to turn a couple of those games into wins. And yeah, that will depend on how efficient we are going forward.
Yeah, I mean, we move on, don't we? We've got to move on. We've got a bit of a break now. We go into the Arsenal game. I look at it. I think there's a slight in the wide areas where we need the decision making to be better, and maybe centrally. I think the issue is quality, really, isn't it? But that's a discussion for another day. I think the how we improve that and why it wasn't improved.
Yeah,
we don't want to be getting into that.
You have to hope. Sorry, like Solanke's new, Odober's new. They haven't really trained at all with the team too much. I mean, it's only been a couple of weeks for Solanke, and he's been injured. So you'd like to think that understandings will develop. Like we may not be lucky. We saw with Kane and Dele that they had an understanding pretty much from day one, whereas Kane and Son, it took a bit longer. It's going to take time probably for those players to really understand what's going on. And I think James made a good point that a lot of it is kind of football intelligence. These guys are good at what they do, but they have to work together, and that will take time on the pitch. It's frustrating that we have to wait so long, but there's nothing to say it can't click in the next month. And if it does, then we'll be a better side. But you look at the attackers that we've had for a while. Some of them are barely on the bench. Some of them are now coming off the bench, and that's a worry, because you'd like to think that Johnson and Son would have some kind of understanding now. You'd like to think that, again, Richarlison's been injured. Like when you think of it like that, these players just haven't played with each other that much, right? And not enough, and that could easily change over time. But we need to stick with certain players for that to happen. And so I hope that we do. I hope that Solanke is going to be fit pretty soon. I think Odober should start more games than he does right now. I want to see Mikey Moore get minutes over Werner, because there's nothing to be gained from playing Timo Werner apart from resting someone who you need to rest. Like otherwise, we want to see players who are invested in Spurs' future play some minutes. Like it's not as if Werner's playing 60 minutes every game. He isn't. So it's unfortunate that the training that maybe could have happened in July hasn't happened. But as Nick Nack said in one of the early comments, like we are playing well, and so it could click. Yeah,
we got to hope it does. We've got to stick, haven't we? I mean, like I always say, I don't think I've got the stomach for another rebuild. I've heard that so many times, but I think we're just going to have to suck it and see, and we're going to have to, unless it is horrendously bad. I think that's the road we've got to go down, isn't it, James? We've just got to let it play out.
Yeah, I mean, especially with young players coming in as well. It's good. And I think the most important thing Ange could do long term for the club is have a clear, defined way of playing broadly at all levels in the club, so it's an easier transition for young talent to go straight in the first team. It's why Barcelona are so successful with integrating young players. It's because they play football a certain way. It's not to say they never change that in certain matches, but it's pretty much going to be the same style of football, no matter what level you are at the club, instead of, we play attacking football at under 16s, and now you've got to learn how to play Antonio Conte football. It makes it easier to have a pathway for these players. And I also think we kind of spent 3 years dicking around with what we wanted to do. So it was always going to hurt way, way, way more when we decided to go back down this path. We're still going to win more matches than we're going to lose. And I think provided we don't have an atrocious injury crisis, I think we'll be competitive and everything. I just don't think we'll win anything, which is, what we all want. I just don't think we'll win anything. I think we'll be good. We'll get European football. We might get Champions League football. I'm not so sure of that because Liverpool have been a lot better than I thought they would be. I thought they'd be pretty rubbish. I was wrong. Man, you were a lot worse than I thought they'd be. So swings and roundabouts. But I only think there's probably 2 or 3 teams better than us across the whole season in the league. So I still think we'll be fine. And it's going to be more like this. We'll have games like this. We'll also have games like this on another day where we win 4-0. And then we're talking about how great we played,
That's the type of shit I want to hear, James. Well done. Well done.
We're going to be frustrated. We're going to be frustrated for large parts of the season. But at least we're having a go.
HG, last word of the night, last thoughts on what we're going to do.
What I'm going to do is prepare for Friday's show.
Yeah.
Since we're going to do a kind of prediction thing where, because I'm the weirdo. Everyone else wants to do a prediction show before the season starts. And I'm like, no, I want to do it when the window's closed because, how can you predict when you don't know what squads people will have? So I'm going to spend a week thinking of that. I know there's an England game. I don't care about that. But with Spurs, I think a lot of our players haven't been picked. They'll have a chance to look about what's going wrong, and you do have to hope that they will take advantage of that and figure things out for themselves. But never give me the last word because I'll just rant. But I'm excited to see what will happen.
This kid here, mate, went to school with him. Long time no see. Nice to see you in the chat, Chris. A long time ago, went to school with him. But yeah, I'm going to the England game. So.
Oh really?
Yeah, not the Ireland one. We're going to the home one.
Who are we playing? I don't even know.
I've got tickets for a Finland game and a Greece game. So I don't know which order they'll be in. I'll find out when I turn up, won't I? I just want to get some caps so I can go to the World Cup in America.
There you go.
Look, good chat. We've been going for an hour. I've been pretty frustrated, but I was a bit taking the piss a bit at the start. But Spurs were in a good place. We played good football yesterday. Things can be improved. It could be a lot worse if you watched Man United yesterday. But James, thanks for coming on, mate. You can now go out to your student union bar or whatever you do, mate, and get absolutely lashed.
Well, I need to take it easy because I went at it for the weekend. So, take it easy.
That's it, mate. So I expect Spurs did that for you, didn't it, mate? Just sat there taking it easy. And HG, once again, mate, thanks for coming on.
No worries, enjoyed it.
Sorry that it's not been a very sort of well-planned show tonight, but I've had a thoroughly busy day. I literally got in 10 minutes before, so I said to you, didn't I? We're just going to go for it.
It's all right for having a family. We spoke about Spurs. That's why everyone's here. And I think a lot of Spurs fans do feel the same. It's frustrating. The question is how you react, right? Yeah. And I think that right now, actually kind of getting behind what we're trying to do is the right way to react. I can be upset at certain players playing badly, but I still want them to play well. I don't want them. Do you know what I mean? it's. So we'll see what goes on. But again, it was fun tonight.
So thanks everybody in the chat for joining us. Follow us on on Twitter. That's all we're on at the minute. Going along the bottom of the screen. Give us a follow. Keep putting in your questions, and we'll try and answer them. Try and get more content out there. But as we always say at the end, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.